So we just shot a short film together this past weekend. It was our second in our series of investigators, paranormal kind of Ghostbuster type deal.
Yeah.
And I thought it went really well. I mean, everything but your acting, but we'll keep working on it.
We can fix that in post. We can
Fix the acting in post. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So essentially, the first one that we shot was maybe like a month ago. And it was about us going into a house. A girl was scared because her sister ran off into the woods, came back, now looks like Momo. We threw a mask on Donald Clough, who's our signature creature actor. We love him. Love Donald. And then for this one, it was an evil grandmother. We go in and she's like a cannibal. She's been feeding on her daughter. And yeah, love those creepy old women.
By the way, this same setup and payoff, like the same bones of the piece,
same dialogue,
even literally for me,
for us,
for you, for the most part too, literally the same lines. And then you just have the actual crime situation or the horror situation is a different, different concept each time. But it's such a fun exercise in seeing like, okay, how can we change our little moments in dialogue to see, because we're kind of going to have like a similar formula each time.
Yeah.
And for you as like a filmmaker too, especially, like I'm trying to have that hat on for myself even, but for you, it's like, it's got to be so liberating and seeing like what you can manipulate and play with to make, to tell a story.
Totally, man. And in doing this same form, it's really fun as a filmmaker because now all I have to worry about is like the fun shit, like the end payoff, like how is it creepy, her running up to him and like all that kind of stuff, as opposed to like we've already figured out the mechanics of how it works.
Yeah, and I would imagine then don't you start to get even more into like the creative juices of like, oh, okay, like maybe not even being able to articulate it, but just being like, this is what this needs a little bit more. And this is how to make this scarier. And this is how to make this more effective and how to get to the point. And now I'm just thinking back to like
making it better and better. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like so simple, but yet you figure out all the pieces are in place for you to focus creatively on it.
That's a great perspective, dude, because we're going to make this form so fucking good by the end of this. It's like every single time we're doing the same fucking thing and we're just making it better every time. And it's like, I can't wait to see what version 10 looks like and how many views that gets, you know?
Yeah. And more importantly, the views. I mean, the power. I mean,
the views. It's all about the views. It's like, it's like, I found too, as an audience member, because there are videos, I mean, we modeled this video form after this other channel we saw on YouTube. And it's like, they do the same shtick every time. And the audience goes into it expecting that. But just because the situation is a little different, I mean, not really. They always like run off into the woods and then are weird. It's like a family member. But like the fun part of it is the location is always different and the look of the creature and the actors are different too. So I feel like it gives you enough variety to keep it interesting.
To make it so that, yeah, it's not bad if some of those, the framework is the same.
Yes.
I was just listening to Dana Carvey and David Spade's podcast. I listen to it every week, like religiously. It's my favorite thing beyond. And they had on Bill Hader, and they were talking about the sketch that they did. It was, I mean, Dana Carvey's Hans and Franz, very girly man dilemma, and then just jump and like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they do that. And he's like, every single time they did the sketch the exact same in the gym, and they moved it one time to not be in a gym. And everyone like threw up their arms. What? Because people
hated it.
They hated it. And it might have been for other reasons, but it was funny for them to talk about. And there completely is something to be said for that. Like audience's perceptions is definitely a thing. And sometimes you have to go against that. Sometimes you have to play into it, but it's that awareness and recognizing how to work with it. And so for us, it's kind of fun to like toy around with this idea of like, hey, we don't have anything that you have to do yet. We don't have any like viewers that we're like married to or anything or pleasing, like, or a studio or any of this stuff. Let's mess around and see what this.
That's the best part of being at this stage of our career is we get to like fuck around with the form. We're more limited when we get bigger, because then it's like there are other factors. Yeah, there's even like, is this gonna make a profit?
The alimony payment.
What's that?
I've just been listening to Lorne Michaels impressions all day.
Oh, excellent.
It's like
Excellent.
Dr. Evil. Yeah.
Yeah. Lorne is like
Marcy, who's his assistant? Marcy, get my third ex-wife on the line. Tell her I'm gonna be a little late to the alimony.
He always does that thing with his lips too, where he like fixes them in a certain way.
Okay, so you have a visual on him. I haven't seen him that much. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. He doesn't make many appearances. It's like you
Right.
gotta look up interviews and stuff. And he's like if someone makes a joke, like there was the 40th SNL anniversary and he was in the audience and someone made a joke about him and he was just like, he like puckers his lips.
Well, that's kind of like Dr. Evil too, who's, by the way, apparently like taken from it. Yeah.
Oh, is it? That's fucking hilarious, dude.
Right? A little mind blow right there.
Oh man, that's so funny.
Yeah,
I see that. I fucking see that. Yeah.
And now I'm hearing Carvey do Lorne Michaels impressions so much now, and David Spade even does it a little bit. Bill Hader's is so funny.
Yeah, I've seen
Apparently
that.
Mike Myers, who's like Carvey's best friend, stole the impression because no one else was really doing it at that time. So the story goes. And then he never really gave Carvey credit for it, but they're all good.
Hilarious.
Yeah, but epic, right?
Epic.
Yeah. So, and now I just do impressions of him whenever I'm thinking of like a boss saying something like, well, the studio will handle it anyway. And it's something.
I want to shift gears a little bit. When we were talking about audience stuff, I just
Understandable.
Let's go on a different topic. Yeah,
let's talk about anything else.
Anything besides Lorne impressions.
Yeah.
No, dude. Audience is that's your powerhouse as a creator. If you have a strong audience who's loyal, that is your pulling power for going to any type of traditional Hollywood thing like a studio or an agency. If you have a strong audience at your disposal, you're powerful, a proven audience. And we're lucky in that we're starting to establish an audience. And
those 3 subscribers are passionate. They mean.
I was talking about my other channel, but yes. Yes.
That's good.
Those 3 are fucking
that would have made
loyal.
sense if you're talking about that.
Yeah. But there's a strategy that I want to be transparent about because I think it could be helpful to the listeners in that I'm going to start releasing, I'm starting to write a new feature based off of a short that I did that was really successful called The Fisherman. And it's gonna be a campaign where I'm releasing a scene from the film like every week. This is gonna be like a little down in the future, maybe like in a month or so we can start. But I bring that up because we are going to be teasing a crowdfunding campaign for the feature, just to be, these benefits and everything are only to be released to our subscribers. And we're hoping to raise 100K that way, which is fairly reasonable given even if people donate like $5 or $1 or whatever. It's like if we do this over a series of videos, it's pretty reasonable. Once we get that 100K, we take that lump of money, get a talent that's attached, a recognizable name talent, even if they're only in it for like 3 days or whatever. 100K, we can get a lot of people.
Lorne Michaels,
number 1.
Jump scares don't do it.
Well, he slid him back in there. Yeah, we get the talent, right? When we have that, we can then go to an established production company with this package and potentially raise way more funds or get foreign pre-sales with a distributor because we've got this name. And so what that shows to me, because it all feels very logical and it feels reasonable, and it just takes an audience. So I just want to say to any creators, like, if you feel totally powerless, because you are, like, every individual is pretty much powerless if they don't have established credit or whatever. But if you have this built-in audience, that's your leverage. and you
It
can
is.
do a lot with it.
So in other words, kids, become influencers, because if you have an audience, you will get things made.
I mean,
Which
basically,
is
yeah.
not false.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel about that from an acting perspective with the whole influencer thing?
I think that first of all, I think your strategy with that's nice. Those are some good broad strokes. I love that we'll chronicle that, and yeah, I'm excited to see.
I like making the declaration here, and then we can play
Totally.
it back later and see how it progresses. Yeah.
It'll change in 1,000 ways in 1 week.
Yeah, exactly. Next week, I'm like, that's not happening.
Oh yeah, no, we decided to scrap the whole fundraising
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
We got an investment from Saudi oil sheik actually.
Oh yeah.
We didn't even need a star. I'm acting in it. No, from an acting standpoint with the influencers, I think it's one of those things that like has such a bad like connotation at this point. Yeah, it's like it's so obvious that that's necessary, and like studios have been kind of like gearing towards that already for probably the past 5
Yeah, the
years.
5 picture deal with the what's her face? Addison Rae
I
at
don't doubt
Netflix.
it. No,
She got like 5 movies.
and she started as an influencer, like yeah.
Yeah, she's like the biggest TikTok influencer.
And like you know, it is a complex subject. Like, what do you even mean by influencer these days? Celebrity, because I am fascinated by the subject matter. Celebrities have always been influential to the public, like since the Roman age, you know. And you know, apparently Jesus himself did some.
Dude, I've just realized I just realized this is the most millennial conversation of all time. It's like at Gen Zs who are listening to this as we're like breaking down like the comparison between like celebrity and influencer. It's funny because we're like 1 foot in the world of Gen Z and the other foot
Yeah.
in like flip phones. It's like
Yeah.
a weird space to be.
So you're saying that like Gen Z and stuff that like was a product of it knows already the answers to all this, like not even
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I'm sure. Because that's like their whole life, you know, and we're
It's like to the
we're still
more like
discovering it.
intellectual, you know, sort of Lorne Michaels. The older, like anyone over like 25 that's kind of considers themselves more like artistic and sort of moody and stuff, which I don't like, but thinks that it's lame to be a quote Instagram or TikTok influencer. They think that it's like a sellout thing and kind of unintellectual, it's cheap, it's quick hits and stuff. And it's just funny how on the other side of that, it's become the face of the entertainment industry. But and a lot of writers, understandably, and stuff like that, I know comedy writers too, like don't want to be involved in that stuff. They're purists. The thing is, you're not doing the conversation justice unless you look at a lot of the avenues in it. And some people, it's merely just getting your product out there, and your product can be very specific to. You could be a cooking person that has their audience. You can be a design person that's you know for that reason. And celebrities obviously are getting wind of it. And I think Gwyneth Paltrow has become like the best example of someone who's become a brand and entrepreneurial and has so many of these different directions she's able to promote through her fame and through her voice and stuff.
I think as long as you're actually being authentic, because I cultivated this audience because I love making horror shorts. It's not because I felt like I had to be an influencer. It's because it was like the only avenue. It's like me putting my work out there. I think it's more like if people feel weird about it, they should think of it more as like, you just need to keep putting work out there. And if you're putting out a shit ton of work and like you don't have an audience, it means you suck right now. And that's fine. But like, that's also an indicator for you to like pivot a little bit if you want to be commercial. If you truly want, I feel like every artist wants to be relevant. I think every artist does.
Oh yeah.
You know?
No, I prefer to have my work not seen, which some of them do. Some of them don't want their work seen.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, I feel like anyone who says that is just like at the deep level
hasn't thought it through.
I think they're more like insecure, like they feel like it isn't good enough for people to like, or I think that's a protective barrier. I think if you make something, you're really proud of it, naturally you're going to want to show it off.
Same. I wonder, I mean, some of these people, I mean, you even hear like Bill Nye comes to mind, great British actor. There's Love Actually. He says he doesn't even like to watch his acting because he's just too aware of like his like technical, like what he was going for and how he didn't live up to what he ended up doing. He's just like, oh, bugger.
But I'm sure that Bill Nye loves when someone says, I like your work. I think he'd prefer that as opposed to like whether he watches it or not. I'm sure he'd prefer that over people not knowing who the fuck he is.
we had a funny moment today. I was with my dad, and this sounds kind of vain, but we only say this because we'd like to think us Van Pattens are overly humble because that's a virtue. And my dad, I was
Us Van Pattens.
Yes, Van Pattenites. My dad, who's on, he's done a lot of things, but he's the host of the World Poker Tour TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into this spa in Koreatown today. And on my day off from work or whatever, we were just having a good old like pal time. And the lady that worked at the front desk or like manages the place, she's a big poker player. And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited, man. So good." And she was a fan. It was so funny. And they hit it off and they talked about poker and stuff. And my dad's like, "This is why you become famous." Because now we have a connection at the Korean spa.
Dude, come on.
And you know what I instantly thought? I thought of everyone who is right in saying that don't get into show business for the fame or anything. And I'm like, my dad on the other hand just goes, "This is why you get famous." Because you get the little perks. It's just like refreshing to hear. Obviously, it's not so obvious to some people, but like my dad truly loves storytelling. He loves making good work. He loves the feeling, whether it's a music or food or anything, the richness of storytelling and what you would call art. But then he also has a sense of humor enough and an analytical mind. And truly, I think this is more artistic than just the closed off people that pretend it's not cool being famous or whatever. Because obviously there's pitfalls of fame too. For example, Ben Affleck talking about it on Howard Stern. But then to be aware enough to just be like, it's pretty good sometimes too. Getting the little perks. And this is like so funny. It's nothing. We're at a little like, bummy Korean spa, but that 15% off meant a lot in the end.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeremy Irons, sorry, lastly on it. Jeremy Irons one time, the legendary thespian of the English stage, when he was asked about fame recently, 5 years ago probably, and he seemed so autistic and intellectual and sort of aristocratic and sort of improper. He was asked about fame and he goes, "Oh, it's a wonderful thing. It sort of turns the entire world into a small town for you because everyone sort of knows you in your work and they're sort of pleased to see you and everything." And I heard that and I was like, that's another thing. You don't expect it from this like debonair artist for him to say this kind of like seemingly shallow thing, but with a grain of salt, obviously we take that anyway.
It's what I've heard about. I think it was Matt Damon said when he became famous, it wasn't like he changed, just the entire world's perspective on you changes. And that thing that you said about like the small town thing is really interesting because everyone knows who you are, I would say though, me with fame is like, I don't want to be recognized by like directing fame is perfect for me. I think it's the perfect kind of dose because for the most part, you're only recognized by your peers. And it's mostly about getting opportunities to make really dope shit. And like, for me, I would rather, instead of it being me, like someone hears that I did like The Fisherman, for example, and they love the movie and they're like, "Oh, you did that movie." I'd rather be known for the movie than for me.
I just want to be known for my looks. Solely just on like my work.
Of course.
Keep it. Throw it away if you want to. If they say
fade,
where's that wannabe Zac Efron / Tyrone Power?
Like, oh, dude, that's the wannabe. Yeah,
that's Zach. Yeah, that's the wannabe. I don't know, Humphrey Bogart, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, that's it, man. That as long as they say that, I'm content. No, yeah, it's a slippery slope. Obviously, it goes back to like primal days, cavemen. You know, if you're the best hunter in town, you'd get known. People would talk about you. You're this. Power comes in many forms.
That's so true, dude. That was like the earliest version of fame. They're like, oh, he can really hunt better than anyone.
He had a way with the cave paintings. Oh my
Yes,
god.
yes. Then they travel to another like distant clan and they're like, hey, have you heard about this guy who can paint like no one else?
With his toes. I mean, he's got that disposable thumb thing that he's going to, as the Neanderthal goes, you know, he's really doing big things in the painting world.
Also, it's opposable thumb.
Everything
It's not disposable. It's opposable, not disposable.
He can dispose of his thumbs real quickly. You know, that's why he's famous. I think it's but then there's other actors. It's funny, we're going to the psychology of it, which I think is exhausted many other places, but it is interesting too. I just saw Jeff Daniels say that, you know, rather, and who knows how sincere this is, but I'm sure it entered his mind in real life. He chased being, you know, a quality performer rather than just trying to be a star, which liberated him. It took the pressure off of having to be like the coolest guy all the time, or like, you know, stand out. But I gotta admit, like, for myself, humbly, I mean, you've seen me on set, Marcy, my assistant, all right? You're always trying to do freaking good work, trying to make the best that you can possibly do. Is it any different if you're saying, oh, I need to be a star? Hell no, dude. Because I've kind of been humbly around the block. I've seen my family, I've seen all this stuff. I recognize that one season you can have a hit in your star, whether they deem that or not. You can also be a part of a hit and be like the worst thing about it, whatever. But sometimes you just don't know how you're going to be perceived. It's out of your control. And then let's say it is big in your star, and then 6 months later, honestly, people freaking forget about you, and you're Adrian Grenier. And 10 years later, not that he got that much credit for Entourage or anything. And then 10 years later, you find another role, and it's kind of sick. And so it's a way.
Fickle thing, dude.
Fickle freaking like, yeah, you probably can't chase it. You chase doing good
stuff.
That's
where the danger is at. Yeah.
If your self-esteem lies on just you being
the
guy that everyone loves,
that's where the danger is.
That's the way of the human experience, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's Courtney Cox getting all the plastic surgery to look a certain way because it was waning a little bit. I am excited.
Courtney, damn it. Is she known for getting a lot of plastic surgery? That's like a famous thing.
Yeah.
I think it worked. She looks good.
Surprise. Yeah, she does look pretty good. I would say too, the reason I say it's like a fickle thing is because what you're saying about the seasons, I'm actually excited about that, because when the first hit happens, your agent, the whole agency, they bring you in, they celebrate, you go to the studios, they're like, we love what you did. What do you have next? Then you come out with a shit movie.
Yeah.
And then you have to prove yourself all over again. And I'm excited by that because of what James Wan and Leigh Whannell did. When their second Dead Silence like failed, they came out with Insidious. And just the potential that you can come out with something really dope, and then people are going to be, I feel like it kind of takes 3 hits, like really solid hits, to be long time longevity, like no question established. And so I'm excited by like chasing that fucking thing, like hunting for your food. It's the hardest
anchor in Hollywood. I mean, dude, people talk about what are like the best stars of all time. It's Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro, Robert Duvall, Gene Hackman. They've had hit after hit after hit after hit after hit after hit for 70 years. You know, like it's, some people never get some of the most talented people, hard, grueling, working.
And that's your competition, is the people who've done 70 hits in a row. That's the competition. It's crazy.
But I still have and we'll see how my opinion changes, but I have roots in kind of that. At the end of the day, I don't think a lot of these people are that creative out there. God bless him. I know how difficult it is to get stuff made, but I think once you're in the cool club, crap just filters on through, seeps through, and it just gets made, and it ends up being too many chefs in the kitchen, whatever. At the end of the day, bro, I think it still comes back to if you have something that is a rich, heartfelt story with twists and turns and beautiful details and beginning, middle, end, and funny colors, and it is made the way that you're proud of it, it's all you can freaking do. You do 3 of those, one of them is going to be, I think, it, and by the way, speaking of which, my dad and I are starting on writing a new feature film as well. We're gonna do it.
Yeah, dude. Have you written a feature before or no?
No.
Dude, that's exciting because like I said, like I have one edit that I have to finish out, but when I'm done that, I'll be tackling this feature, The Fisherman.
Right.
So both of us will be writing at the same time.
That'll be fun.
Like will be really interesting, dude. Because we've already talked. I mean, we've been in that phase where I'm like, I'm dying, like I'm getting up at 4:30 every morning and all this shit. It'll be fun for both of us to trade experiences when we're doing it.
100%. I'm bro, because it's interesting how we came to realize that we want to do this. We're super excited. Obviously, my dad and I wrote the pilot that we shot and everything, and came up with a prospectus for like a whole season of this half-hour comedy that we're shopping around. And then for this, my dad literally brought up today. He was like, I want to do something again, like that's gonna be fun. What can we sink our teeth into? And we thought of this guy that we know. I'll spare names, but he's such a character in real life. Such a freaking character. And his brother-in-law has been wanting to get him into a movie. His brother-in-law finances movies and these types of things, and could be good for us to all know, frankly. But and then he wants to see him in something, and we were thinking about making a documentary on this guy because he's such a hilarious character. And then and we're like, well, what if we make a con movie about kind of grifters in this area? I don't want to spoil anything at all yet, but it has such a fun backdrop. And then I could be sort of, we're gonna end up being like roommates, him and I could be kind of the straight man to it, of like kind of like Ed Norton in Fight Club, where like everything's like, what is happening? What? How is this like in kind of a con where like everything goes awry and maybe one thing leads to another, it snowballs. Or I can be kind of the street guy as well. But the moral of the story is it's gonna be complex, it's gonna be heartfelt, it's gonna be funny as hell, colorful. And we're already starting to look into real cons that have happened that are like epic, that you're like, whoa, those sound like they might be bad people, but that was fascinating how it went down and stuff. And we're gonna be inspired by it. We're super excited.
It's exciting, dude. Right now, my producer Ken is writing a screenplay with his dad. I'm jealous of these like father-son writing partnerships. My dad can't fucking write.
Dude, bring him in.
Have fun. Nah, dude. There's no way.
Hey, famous last word.
We'll
see where it goes. We'll see where it goes.
No
way. Is his dad a writer?
What's that?
Is his dad like a screenplay writer? No kidding. Okay.
Yeah. In general, well, I guess, has your dad written anything before or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a writer. Yeah. I mean, he's an entrepreneur, I guess you can say. He's done a lot of different things, but even his like on World Poker Tour when he hosts, he writes all the jokes he comes up with and stuff. That's all premeditated and stuff. And he's written 3 features, 4 maybe, and 3 of them were out. One of them was considered one of the best gambling movies of all time. Like the Chicago Sun-Times, Richard Roper said that. He's like, this is literally the best gambling movie of all time.
Love it.
Have you not seen it? 7 Days to Vegas? I haven't. Watch it tonight. I know you have a lot to do tonight, and still watch it.
I'll watch it this week. I'll put it on my list.
You will literally see that this movie, and the reaction that I had to it was, I was blown, and I was on set a lot too. I was blown away from the production value of it. How wonderful and just like intriguing and scenic every little thing was, and funny and real, different characters, that like it takes you into what you thought you might know, and then blows the lid off of it.
You've pitched me, man. I'm gonna watch it this week. Sounds good. It's bro, there's something exciting about the fact that your dad has done these things. And now it's like he's like, this is to me, and it goes back to what I said about like having to prove yourself again.
Mhm.
This is the most exciting like part of the whole thing for me. Apart from like maybe finishing a project or something, it's like that initial spark where you're like, okay, I'm gonna shake off this rust. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get back in the saddle and make
Yeah.
something. That first initial push, because then it like really sucks and like midway through the project, like it always
Yeah.
does. You always hit this
Always.
wall inevitably, but that initial high of being like so stoked about like, and I've put off this screenplay for a little bit because I'm like, I love just being in this, you know, right before I actually start it. Yeah. But I mean, I'm gonna shake it off too. But that feeling of like getting back in the saddle, getting into some kind of a routine is great.
It is. You didn't see Tick Tick Boom, the movie?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh, cool. I was a big fan too. How about when yeah, I mean it's obvious. The agent was like, I know, dare we say a movie that we both agree was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The agent after like his big showcase and it goes really well and he's like, oh, okay, did I get picked up? Are we gonna get put on Broadway?
You're saying. Yeah.
And she goes, you know, it was great, but no one bit, honey. It's just, you know, they'll come back for the next one. And he's like, the next one? I just spent 7 years of my life slaving away over this play. I don't, what am I supposed to do? And she goes, and she like drops the voice and gets all intense and is like, you write another one and you spend 5 years on it and you make it better. And then you do another one and another and on we go. Mm-hmm. And maybe on this next one, write about something you know. Opposed to like a space thing, and that turned out to be Rent or whatever. And
also I think it's crazy that because it said in the movie like he'd put Rent away, like he started writing it and then he kind of tucked it away and then he brought it back again. And it's like, that's fucking crazy because we can both be sitting on like what you're about to write and what I'm about to write. It could be like the next fucking big thing. And that's why it's exciting. It's like the potential of not knowing where it could end up. And also the fact that it just comes from you too. It wouldn't exist if you weren't here.
I know. I guess the world's got enough of it already, but I know. It is exciting. You're smart at realizing like in the process that like, hey, this could be special. So much of it is about appreciating where you're at, even though.
Because here's the thing, dude. Even when we've made it,
still gonna feel like, yeah,
we're doing the same shit. It's literally the same. And people think it gets better. Not necessarily. The reason why it gets better is like, okay, you can make a full-time living at it. That's dope.
Stakes get higher. The toys get nicer.
That's the thing. The stakes are higher. So like the amount of pressure, dude, I'm about to release a really weird short film tomorrow. It's weird. It's like very found footagey, running after with a shaky camera. I wouldn't make that if I like had millions of subscribers.
And when you get huge too, what it does with all that pressure is it can probably dry you up real quick. It makes it so that like any move probably feels like, oh, I can't do that. What about that? I don't want to go in that direction.
Directors,
my viewers, I'll let them my viewers, right?
Totally. And the best directors become conservative by the end of their career. Well, I'm not big enough to where I can even say names, but there are certain big directors that's like,
dude,
okay,
you can spare Michael Bay. You can spare Michael Bay. Drop the damn names, bro. You're still recognizing that they're like talented and whatnot.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so Spielberg.
Variety's not going to quote you on this, so continue.
Spielberg.
I'm telling him.
His films, I fucking love him as a filmmaker, right? But his initial films were more bold swings, and you can see it, you know? And I think it's I think it just happens when you get more experience and more age. It's like, and you get more like
where you see them like try to compensate and like go too extreme, but kind of in the wrong areas. Like they really try. But well, for instance, like Steven Spielberg just did
West Side Story.
West Side Story. That's a huge swing to do a musical for him.
That's true.
And yet maybe you can argue that like, oh well, it just wasn't that interesting. I didn't see it. I heard it's good actually, but and then bro, Catch Me If You Can. Freaking lovely story.
Yeah. I love that movie. I would say
It's commercial classic. Freaking fun for the whole family.
I think it's easier to get
lessons. Continue.
it's easier to get down that path if you are in like drama. I think I love being in horror because it doesn't matter how big your budget is, and it doesn't matter how seasoned you are, or like if you don't want to take bold swings, you have to be on the cutting edge of shit, because it's the one genre that like it's constantly changing what is the scariest thing. And the only factor is you have to be scary. That's the only thing. So it doesn't matter who's in it. It doesn't matter any of these things.
Trends.
You have to be, yeah, you have to be razor sharp
Yeah.
with what's scary. And that's why I'm glad that I chose this as like my thing, because yeah, dude, it doesn't, like when I'm like 90 years old, I'm still going to be making films and still trying to figure it out, because it will have changed at that point. And like, it's always going to be a challenge.
Junior, let me know if I ever get out of touch with what's scary, eh? Do your granddad a favor, get him another beer. Anyway.
Exactly like that. Yeah.
That's me, not you.
Oh, okay. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I guess we should wrap this up, sadly.
Yeah.
Felt
But
quick.
dude, lots of good points.
Oh yeah, it was a fun one. I could keep yapping.
Yes. We're going to talk business for like a minute, but thanks to everyone who tunes in, listens, watches, share with your friends. This is going to be huge.
By the way, we're not just saying this. These 3 subscribers that are followers, we freaking love you guys. I mean, you guys are just, the bee's knees.
Most loyal 3 subs anyone could have.
Anyone is known.
It's not about the quantity, it's the quality.
Yeah, and those damn 3 people are quality people.
Again, watch this back like 5 years from now. It's going to be hilarious. Dude, I've seen some of the earliest Joe Rogan podcasts, and it's him with like the shittiest camera of all time. It looks like a potato. And he's like, it's all like the audio quality is really bad. He's just there with his friend, like staring in the camera, because podcasts like just started. He doesn't know how to use it. I think he uploaded to like MySpace originally. And he's like, oh, there are 12 people watching.
Still more than us.
We haven't taken Spotify into account. Who knows?
True. It's true. There's got to be some big numbers.
Yes.
All right. Later, everyone.
Yeah. Peace.